It's Monday, and just like every Monday, we're going to take a look at the charts on Next Gen Stats over at NFL.com and look at the trending running backs from Week 15 and project them out going forward. This could help you on waivers. This could help you with trades, more than likely in Dynasty since trades are not open in redraft. And this can help you with your confirmation bias on your players, see whether or not you want to play with them in your lineups going forward. But what you need to do right now is click that subscribe button. I'm here to help you out with the waivers every single week as we go deep on the waiver wire daily. Also, I'm here to help you set your lineups, and I'm a key resource to your research in the offseason as you get ready for your drafts, because we're pumping out constant videos, advanced analytics, player values, everything else to help you win your drafts when it comes time for your drafting players. Click that button. Stop missing out. Let's look at the trending players from Week 15, and we're going to start off with Kiron Williams. 27 carries in this matchup against the Commanders, and we knew that we're going to get a lot of scoring in this game. We had a 48-point total in this matchup, and Kiron Williams, I think he's about matchup proof in this offense. I really do. I think he's as close to matchup proof as you can get, because you can use him in the passing game. You can really give him a ton of carries. And I think the only knock on him, and this is for more long-term right now, it's very short-term in redraft right now and for the rest of the fantasy season, is that he gets a lot of touches. And most running backs do not get 27 carries and 7 targets. That's just not a normal thing at the running back position. And I don't think many running backs in this universe can hold up with that workload. That's the only negative, but it's great for fantasy game to game. Game to game, it's great. Dynasty, you got to look at that. If they're going to continue to give him this many touches, they got to get him a meat shield. They got to get him a meat shield running back. This is not going to be the greatest running back draft class coming up here in 2024, but there's some guys here that could really help this backfield out, allowing his touches to get meat shielded a little bit to where he does not have to take on this much of a workload, allowing him to be a longer asset for your fantasy teams. But right now, you gotta love the touches, especially for the short term, especially projecting out the next year. Sean McVay gloats about him, and he is getting a ton of workload. Last 3 games has been over 20 carries in each one of those games. 21, 25, and 27. They're going to ride him until the wheels fall off, and honestly, in today's NFL game, if you got a running back that you feel good about doing that with, you might as well, and then turn and burn him and get another running back. And Kiron Williams is that running back for them. They like him. They like using him. He's very versatile in their offense, and we could see that going forward. And obviously right now, considering what we're seeing out of him with the touches here, you're starting him in fantasy. Devin Singletary with the surprise here. Honestly, anything with the Texans is a surprise with CJ Stroud out, because we had no idea what was going to go on with this offense, and it was a lower scoring game, and it was a lot less volume in this matchup, but Devin Singletary got the load. 26 carries, 121 yards, a lot up the gut, and he's a very dependable runner, and he's very dependable in pass protection. You never know what you're going to get with Devin Singletary, but he has been consistent. If you really zoom out and look at this, Week 10 against the Bengals, 23 fantasy points. Week 11, 19. Week 12, 13. Week 13, 5. Week 14, 12. Week 15, 21. So he does need to be rostered in all leagues right now. And you're not feeling good about starting him with CJ Stroud out. But you know, he's getting touches. He's getting opportunities. And at least you can start him knowing that he's going to be getting touches and opportunities. Not all these games is getting a lot. Week 12 and Week 13, he got 6 carries, and then the next one on Week 13, he got 8. But all in all, he's getting some workload. He's scoring fantasy points, and he's a guy that needs to be rostered in all leagues. Aaron Jones was cleared to play. We were wondering how much workload he was going to get and how he was going to look against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what this team was going to do against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, considering most teams like to throw it on their defense. They like to throw it deep. The wide receivers usually hit, and you usually get a bunch of wide receivers contributing in these matchups against the Buccaneers. That's what we saw, but we saw Aaron Jones do enough to get the job done in fantasy. If you needed more, it wasn't enough for you, but he scored 10.9 PPR fantasy points, more than what you were expecting, before he declared himself ready for the game. But he got 13 carries in this matchup, 53 yards, saw 4 targets, was using the passing game, which is a good thing, which is a good indicator that you're good to use them next week, and you're probably going to get at least a 10 spot, maybe more in softer matchups. With that being said, if you're looking at him for the weeks coming up, you're probably good to start him. You're probably going to get a good workload out of him, and you're probably going to feel okay about the touches, and you just don't know about the fantasy points. But if you need touches, you got Aaron Jones. Ty Chandler erupted and went for 24 PPR fantasy points, 132 yards, and 1 touchdown. And it's like we've been saying all year long with him. He's explosive. All he needs is a couple touches. Look at the chart. It took him a couple touches out of those 23 carries. And you could say that if you get a lot of carries with any running back, but he's got that 4.3 speed. He's a home run hitter. Those home run threats can just score big on any given play, and he just has those capabilities. He's very explosive, and he's a guy, if he's getting the workload in a matchup, you just start him, and you hope you get this. He's that type of runner. Cincinnati was the middle of a road matchup for running backs here, and granted, with a guy like Ty Chandler, I don't think the matchups matter too much because he's going to give you the opportunity to erupt in any matchup here because there's green in front of him. He's good for gusto. He really is, and that's just part of his game. That's part of the nature of these running backs. There's not many of them in the league, but a guy like Ty Chandler, if he's getting workload, and if he's getting enough workload, he's going to get more opportunities to see green, and if he sees green, he's going to hang you a 20 spot or more in fantasy. Isaiah Spiller, there's really nothing to note here for redraft. You're not really touching him unless you're in a deep league, 16, 18-teamer, 20-teamer, or something like that. Dynasty, you're getting some confirmation bias about this mid-round pick that you got in a rookie draft a few years ago. But 5 fantasy points, but he got 16 carries. A weird game script here. Something you do not see every day. An NFL team hanging 63 points on another team. That's something that's outside of normal, but he got some workload. He got some opportunities. Opportunities could lead to production here. Isaiah Spiller, I would say he's a guy to watch. In redraft, you're not rostering him. You're not going to waivers for him. I think some people are going to talk about him, and I may bring him up in one of the waiver wire videos, but you're not actively seeking him out this stage of the game, especially for the fantasy playoffs, unless you're absolutely hurting to the point that you need 16 carries and you don't mind whiffing and getting 5 to 6 fantasy points considering that you're getting the carries and that could lead to a touchdown or something. I could understand that. But right now, you're just not trusting the Chargers running backs. Nobody is, even Eckler. You're just not trusting it. And it's a competition there with those running backs. And it looks like Isaiah Spiller is getting some opportunities. They want to see what they have in him. They want to see what he's doing for the future so they can make some decisions in the offseason. And we're projecting that out, which could be something that leads to fantasy production over the next few weeks. Pay attention to him nonetheless. But Zamir White, he is an explosive running back with good size-adjusted athleticism. He's going to get a bulk of the carries between the tackles. Like we said, that is what we were expecting. And we were expecting him to get that goal line work. He got that touchdown. We're expecting him to get the short yardage work. That all happened. Wasn't grandiose, but scored you 17 PPR fantasy points. Did good enough to get the job done. And if Josh Jacobs is out, expect him to get 15 to 20 carries. Expect him to get touches around the goal line. And if he crosses that goal line, you're going to have a good week. Don't expect him to get much work in the passing game, even though he got 4 targets here, which is pretty stellar for him, considering what we saw out of his production in the passing game when he was at Georgia. But still, expect him to get a large workload if Josh Jacobs is out. Trey Surman. Zach Moss went out. He got opportunities. If the running backs are still out, then you may want to look at Trey Surman, but you're chasing touches, not fantasy points when you're looking at a running back like this. You're chasing those touches and you're hoping for the best. And when I say, hey, you need this player or you may need this player in a video, I might be talking, hey, you may need him because you need touches, not because you're chasing fantasy points. 2 different strategies there, and if you're hurting to the point you need touches, this is another running back to look at. If Zach Moss and company's out and Trey Sermon's looking like he's getting the workload here, and if he is, then guess what? 15 to 20 carries is something you can bank on, and then if you get the fantasy production to go along with that, That's awesome. If it doesn't happen, you know what? We went after the carries, the touches, and sometimes it runs hot, sometimes it doesn't. James Cook ran hot. He sure did. 179 rushing yards and a touchdown. Caught 2 balls, 42 yards. But this guy's been getting a lot of workload this season. He's been consistent, and I feel like he's been underrated for what he was. There was a time, and it was earlier this season, probably like week 4 to week 5 range or somewhere around there. He had a cool down period, and people were down on him, not valuing him the way he should have been. And then he's really ignited, especially looking at these last 4 weeks here. Against the Jets, 19 fantasy points in week 11. Against Philly, 16 fantasy points. Week 12, we got the bye. Then week 14 against the Chiefs, 25.1 PPR fantasy points. And then against Dallas, 36. He's been productive. He's been good in the passing game. Doing well between the tackles, too. He's overall been a stellar running back this year for the Bills. Zamir Gibbs is a talent. He's a talent. He's explosive. He can score on any given touch. And he has that home run threat. And he's sharing the backfield with Montgomery. This is really just going to allow him to be more fresh later in his career. A lot of people were down on him earlier in the season. He's a rookie. They were getting him ramped up. David Montgomery was on a hot streak. You don't expect hot streaks to last forever. You don't expect cold streaks to last forever. And things corrected themselves. And Zamir Gibbs is a damn good running back. I hope you have him in fantasy and dynasty. The price is through the roof. Tyler Allgeier. Why are we looking at Tyler Allgeier? Because Bijan Robinson didn't get enough touches to get a chart on the next gen stats. I didn't make these charts. These are posted on the site, and I just grabbed the ones who have the best talking points to them. That is the method to the madness. And the talking points to Tyler Allgeier is he should not be having a chart. This should be a Bijan Robinson chart, but it's not. Arthur Smith did Arthur Smith things. We were talking about this on stream. Like somebody mentioned, they were worried about the weather. I was more worried about the game script, period, due to Arthur Smith. And it was more about Drake London and his target share versus production. And I felt like the game script is what made things iffy. The game script made things very iffy and not a way I was thinking about. I knew it was going to be slow and weird. It was slow and weird, but the Panthers won. I was expecting the Falcons to be up a little bit, it being slow and weird and ugly. It was slow, weird, and ugly nonetheless. So overall, it doesn't really matter. But it was slow and weird, and this is what you're going to get off and on with the Falcons. This is just the thing. This is just the thing we're going to have to contend with here with Bijan, Drake London. Just weirdness from this team off and on, and you're not going to trust it. And then you're going to catch weirdness the other way, where Bijan gets too many touches, too many opportunities, and you can't trust it because you know this is going to happen the next week or 2 weeks later. Same thing with Drake London. I would like to see this offense just under different leadership and just see what it could do. I really want to. Maybe a different quarterback as well. But honestly, this is a weird team. That is the only take you can have. This is a weird team with weird leadership. But those are the trends at the running back position from week 15 using the next gen charts over at NFL.com. Let me know what you think in the comments below. We definitely want to hear about it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.